Alright guys, welcome back to another podcast on MMA Unhinged. Today I'm joined again by my co-host Oscar, and we've got a long episode to talk about as we just discovered.
Yeah, we're looking at the lineup for this week, and it's pretty stacked. Not only does Bellator have 2 events in Hawaii, but the UFC has an 11-fight card already, and PFL's coming out. There's so much going on in the combat sports world, and we're not even talking about Fury versus White this Saturday. It's wild, the lineup that fight fans are looking forward to this weekend. But I say we wrap up what happened last week in combat sports. First, we'll talk about UFC Vegas 51. The main event was Vicente Luque, and he lost to Belal Muhammad by unanimous decision. This was not the most exciting fight, which is a rare case for Vicente Luque fights, but Belal Muhammad fought a masterful game plan. He used the takedown threat the entire fight to make Luque shell up. And not only that, he was using his lateral movement, so he wasn't as hittable as Luque's opponents have been previously. So Belal Muhammad did exactly what he needed to do to win against a guy like Luque, because the first time around, he got knocked out in like 2 minutes. So he had to be respectful of Luque's power, and he was. He was not going into the pocket willing to throw. He did what he needed to do, and a lot of people are criticizing him for it, and I just don't know why you would do that, because if he didn't fight that way, you're probably talking about Luque flatlining him again. In that third round, Luque was able to crack him, but just kind of felt like Luque wasn't exactly himself that night, and I feel like Belal's takedown threat was probably the reasoning for it. Luque just usually he's able to knock his opponents down, at least do some serious damage, but Belal has just improved by leaps and bounds. If this was the Belal that debuted in the UFC against Alan Jouban, he would be getting wrecked in this fight. And he did get wrecked when they fought the first time, but this is a new Belal, a Belal that's on an 8-fight win streak, a guy who's now in the top 5. I think Belal is now amongst the elites, which I didn't think I would be saying that a year ago. And Belal Muhammad is a guy that trains 30 minutes from my house. I am a Belal fan, but I never really believed in his skill set to this extent, but it appears that he's now earned his spot there, and he did it all while observing Ramadan fasting.
Yeah, you got to give him credit for that, as you said there, by Ramadan fasting, and he's cutting weight. He's preparing for a fight. I mean, he deserves massive credit, and the performance as well, as you talked about, as you were saying, it's not the most exciting fight. I think Belal Muhammad did what he needed to do to win the fight. Most importantly, he got his hand raised, and he's top 5 ranked in the world now, and I think that sets him up for a big fight next. If you look at the fighters that are in front of him, you have Hamza Chimaev, Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, and Kamaru Usman. I can't think of the other one off the top of my head, but yeah. I mean, it's a big fight next to him. That's all I can see next for him now. But for Vicente Luque, this is probably one of the rare occasions that we see him in a dull, not action-packed fight. But it was primarily because Belal Muhammad executed his game plan to perfection.
Yeah, I really think that was the case. And not only that, when it was on the feet, he was doing well for himself too. There was rounds that took place in the striking for a fair amount of time, and Belal was winning those exchanges because Luque was expecting him to shoot at any second. I really have to give all the props to Belal Muhammad here. As for what's next for him, I think the clear next guy is Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns just lost his last fight to Hamza Chimaev, a guy that wasn't even in the top 5. So a guy like Muhammad at number 5, I think that makes sense. And also, these are 2 guys that don't have known their vocabulary when the UFC calls them to fight. Both guys will fight anybody, and they've proven it before. So, Luque, I don't know what to do with him next, honestly. I hope he doesn't look like this in his next fight, but Muhammad versus Burns, I love the matchup, and it's very difficult to pick a winner in that fight. It'll be a high-level fight when it happens, and I want to see 5 rounds, because Muhammad had his first 5-round fight in this fight, and he looked a bit tired, which I wasn't expecting, and Gilbert, he's had one fight that went the 5 rounds, and he looked, I would say, probably looked a little better than Muhammad. So, very interesting fight on paper, and I'd love to see it. And for any Muhammad haters out there, go look at his early UFC fights. Call those fights boring. Jouban, The Joe Ben and Neal fights were bangers. Muhammad has just improved himself defensively, so he's not, taking that kind of damage. I just don't understand the criticism.
I do agree. Yeah, I've got to say it was a pitch perfect fight for him. As you talked about the adjustments from the first fight and the second fight, it was evidently clear. And you just got to give props to Bilal Muhammad. And I think a big fight is what he deserves next. I think it's a top 5 fight. And as you talked about that Gilbert Burns fight, both fresh off a fight. I know Gilbert Burns was getting there ASAP to get back in the winning column. And I think it's a good fight. So I think it's what the UFC should make next.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll move on to the co-main event. Caio Borralho, he illegally kneed Garcia in the third round after successfully banking 2 rounds and a half. And man, this was a night of fouls. We had a ton of fouls, and this was the second technical decision of the night. I really feel that this rule set is flawed. I don't know if I have a better method to fix it, but this just doesn't feel right, honestly. A guy blatantly fouls a guy. I do think it was unintentional, but you just got to know the rule set if you're Borralho. He was avoiding it in the past, but, I feel like there should be, a heavier punishment, honestly, because, that was a bad knee. And on the other end, with Gotzi, I think Gotzi was trying to keep his shiny 13-0 record. I think the guy, I saw his story. He said it should have been ruled a no contest and rescheduled for a later date. Dude, you were losing 2.5 rounds of that fight, and you were in a spot where you were not going to turn things around. So, Borralho, this should not have been a no contest because Borralho clearly was the winner of this fight. And at the end of the day, that's what really matters. He had the better skill set. He beat a Russian combat sambo champion. He out-grappled him, took his back. Caio Borralho is the real deal, and I think that should be the conversation above all, rather than the weird technical decision stuff.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think the dude showed that he is legit, and his grappling game, which is what you talked about there, is what surprised me the most. It looked incredible against, as you talked about, a combat sambo world champion, and he made it look fairly easy on the ground, and it just shows his levels. I think we were speaking before the fight, and I told you that he had a draw against Jolton Almeida, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? He must surprise us with the grappling. Maybe I should have thought that a little bit more, but I did pick Garcia in this fight, and maybe I should have went the other way. But definitely in the future, I'm not gonna doubt him anymore, because I think his grappling's great. I feel like he's definitely put himself on the map, and it was a great performance.
Yeah, the guy's a black belt in judo, black belt in jiu-jitsu. His Muay Thai is great, and one of the main things that he loves to brag about, he's grappled with Damian Maia for years. He's gotten put in the worst positions known to man in jiu-jitsu, and he's lived to tell the tale. So, Caio Borralho, he's got really elite skills. I think this guy will be in the top 15 in the next couple of years. I really do. When you're fighting a guy that was a combat sambo world champion, guy that never lost, and you're taking his back for a really long time, you're sweeping the guy. Caio what really impressed me, even though he had a weird ending of the fight. But we'll move on to the next fight. I would say this was the most impressive performance of the card. Andre Fialho knocked out Miguel Baeza in round 1. Baeza was doing well early. This was kind of how I thought Baeza would fight. I thought he would not be as hittable as he has in other fights, because that's what's cost him. He does have a long reach. He can pick guys apart with his jab and his straight punches, but once he gets in that pocket, it's a 50-50 fight, and that's what happened here. He was winning early, and once Fialho had an opportunity to hit him, he hit him as hard as he could, and then he got in the clinch in with vicious uppercuts, and he put him down, landing the finishing blow. Fialho has vicious power, man. He fought Michel Pereira, and he rocked him. He knocks guys out, or he rocks them pretty much every time out, even if he loses. The guy, Fialho, I think this guy is going to stick around the UFC for a long time, because, goodness gracious, he can knock out the best of them.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think Andre Fiallo is a fantastic addition to the division, and it just shows, as you were talking about, his heavy hands. He's, as it's shown in here once again against Miguel Baeza. It was a fantastic knockout. I like to see where it goes from here. I think there's some good matchups in division for him, but I feel like this one was tailor made for Fight of the Night. But I feel like Andre Fiallo had different plans, and he knocked him out. It was a good fight until the ending. I think that both guys were landing back and forth, but it just shows. Andre Fiallo has that power differential, and it just showed that he knocked him out and he put the lights out. And it's a fantastic win, though, against a tough guy, Miguel Baeza, who a few fights ago we thought was a fantastic prospect. Still is. He has a lot of time to learn.
Yeah. I feel like he made the same mistakes he made in the Ponzinibbio fight, in the Chaos William fight. He stayed in the fight for too long. And the guy has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's got a nice reach on him. How about you start, using your kickboxing at range and maybe work on your wrestling to try to take guys down and go for submissions? I think Baeza is an unfinished product, and we have to remember the kid's not even 30. I'm not sure what his age is. Not even 30. He's an unfinished product. I think he can still do great things in this division. Maybe find himself ranked one day, but don't give up on Baeza yet. But I will say the durability is not what I once thought it was.
Mm-hmm. Having a quick look at him now. He was born in 1992. Off the top of my head, 29 years old.
Yeah, 29. Okay, so he is getting there. Yeah, Baeza is not a guy that has a ton of miles on him exactly. So, yeah, I still think he can do really good stuff in this division. As for Fiallo, the matchmaking for him is super fun to do because, as I said, he can knock out anybody, so he's always got the puncher's chance. I say put him in there with Nico Price.
Woo! That is a fantastic fight. Both men come through. Yeah, that's definitely Fight of the Night contender.
Yeah, and I think he's a guy that very well could knock out Nico Price in the right situation. We'll move on to the next fight. Mario Bueno Silva beat Wu Yanan by unanimous decision. This was given the fight of the night, but let's be honest, the opener on the main card, that was a real fight of the night. But nonetheless, these two ladies, they put on a really decent fight. In the first round, Bueno Silva fought really well. She knocked down Wu Yanan. I thought she was about to finish her, but Wu Yanan sticked it through. And in the second round, once again, Bueno Silva was winning the striking, and then she gets taken down. And I was like, oh no, this is a big mistake for Wu. Bueno Silva submitted Jillian Robertson, and then Bueno Silva starts attacking submissions. She's not able to get any of them to get back to the feet. And yeah, I actually thought Wu Yanan won that second round in retrospect. And I also thought she won the third round. That third round was super close. Very close round. Wu Yanan got better as the fight went. And yeah, Bueno Silva has to work on her striking defense. She's not good at optics for the judges. Always walking forward, taking shots, is just not a good look. So I did think Wu won the fight, but I'm not gonna doubt anybody that scored Bueno Silva. I was watching with the closest eye. What did you make of this decision?
It's an extremely close decision. I think it could go either way. As you talked about, the first round, Silva, second round, Wu, and then that third round. I think it's a coin toss, to be honest. I think you just choose whoever you think, because it's such a close round. It can go either way. But if you look at the volume, different in volume, Yunan Wu threw almost 80 strikes more than Silva. It was incredible. So if you think about, if you're Silva right now, you just got to think about, you got to work on your volume, and then, as you talked about as well, that striking defense as well. And as you talked about, when it went to the ground, I thought, Silva's been here before. She's submitted, a fantastic black belt and Julian Robertson. And maybe she can get a submission, as you mentioned, Wu done very well, defend and eventually got the fight up to the ground. And I feel like she done well. I feel like the second and the third round was really close. And there's definitely an argument for her to win this fight.
Yeah, that's just the truth. But I was very surprised when I saw as being the fight of the night. We'll talk about later about what I thought was the real fight of the night. Pat Sabatini beat TJ Laramie by unanimous decision in the next fight. Sabatini was one of my most confident picks on this whole card. I actually thought he would get a quick submission here, but TJ's submission defense has improved. Sabatini got his back for a long time in this fight, and it reminded me of Sterling versus Yan, of course. Just a lot of control time for Sabatini throughout this fight. In the first round, Laramie was winning the striking until he got hit with a vicious teep kick right to the body. And yeah, Sabatini's striking has improved in this fight. And he just showed an all around good skill set. He's 4-0. He's one of those guys that's so big, that's so strong that he can just muscle guys down there. I really like Sabatini's whole skill set. Laramie, on the other hand, he's just too short for the division. I wouldn't call Sabatini a big featherweight, but he's definitely bigger than Laramie. I think Laramie should consider going down a bantamweight.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, and I think that's definitely the logical option if I'm TJ moving forward. And as you talk about Pat Sabatini, 4-0 inside the UFC now is definitely something that was probably maybe not looked as much, but definitely I think we should keep an eye on in the future. And I feel like if you look at TJ Laramie's last fight against Derek Miller when he got submitted, I think the UFC did him no favors. It gave him a harder matchup in Pat Sabatini. So if you look at the run in the UFC he's had, he coming off he came off Contender Series. I feel like they've not really given him any favors. And definitely, I do agree with you. I think a move down to bantamweight would be the wise decision moving forward in his career. But Pat Sabatini, man, this guy is improving every fight that we see. And I'd definitely like to see another step up in competition and see how he handles that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think there's a lot of great options for Sabatini next. I don't see him getting a rank out because the division is so stacked. But I think he's like one fight away. I really think he is. We'll move on to the next fight. Munir Lazzez beat Anche Lusa by unanimous decision. This was a really fun fight to watch. I predicted this to be mainly a kickboxing match, and for the most part, it was. Both guys, they fought their style fight, and plain and simple, Lazzez had a full can for this. Lusa did not, and Lazzez he's sharper. He just looks sharper out there, and he had the higher output. That was really a difference maker here. Lusa is tough as nails. If you watch the Jack Della Maddalena fight of the Contender Series, the guy can take a punch, man. And that's what happened here. Lazzez pieced him up for the majority of the fight. But in that third round, both guys increased their output. But still, Lazzez was the guy ahead. And it was a super exciting third round. And I thought this should have been the fight of the night. But some people are saying that since Munir Lazzez shouted out some Irish mob boss in his post-fight interview, maybe he caused himself a bonus with that. I don't know. That might be the only logical reasoning for giving Bueno Silva the fight of the night bonus over this one, because this one was a really fun kickboxing fight.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not very clued up with that mob boss. I'm not too sure who he is, to be honest.
So the U.S. government has a $5 million bounty on his head.
Kirk, yes, Daniel Kirk, something like that. I'm not too sure. I don't know what he's done or anything like that, but I have heard Munir Lazzez talk about him in the post-fight interview, saying how he helped him become a better person and he supported him. So it's a weird stance, but I'm not too sure what to say. I'm not going to comment on it because I'm not too sure. But we're coming on his performance. I think it was a fantastic performance. And if I'm Lusa, I think the most important thing now for him is he's inside the UFC, and he didn't really give a bad account of himself. On short notice, he came in there, he gave it his all. I think it's a good fight for him, because I think he's definitely going to get another fight inside the UFC. I think that's the most important thing. He's inside the UFC now, and Lazzez, bouncing back from the loss against
Warley Alves.
There you go, Warley Alves, and I think that was the most important thing for him. And as you talk about, his striking is crisp, and that's the Munir Lazzez that we expected in previous fights, and I feel like he's came back, and he's back on that train again. I'd like to see him get another fight, see how he looks. But for Lusa now, I think as I said, the most important thing is he's inside the UFC. He's going to get another shot, and on the short notice, to be honest, it wasn't that bad of a performance.
Yeah, not at all. I think he is UFC caliber. He's a Sanford MMA product, training with a ton of UFC fighters over there. I think he can hold his own for the UFC for a good while. We'll move on to the prelims. Devin Clark knocked out William Knight in round 3. Woo. This was a surprise to me, because I thought Devin Clark would, not really look to strike. I thought he would just grind the fight out, win a decision, as he usually does, because he never finished anybody in the UFC. So when Devin Clark opened up and found the chin on William. I was very surprised. And this is the evolution we need to see from Devin Clark. Start showing that he's got a threat with his striking, not just his wrestling. And that's what he did. William Knight, on the other hand, has fallen on hard times. Not only did he miss weight by a record number, now he moves up to heavyweight where he's not cutting that weight. He can't make that excuse anymore. And he still looked pretty awful. The only real moment he had in the fight was the guillotine, which he's no black belt. He doesn't have the proper technique, but he's got huge tree trunk arms that he could have, really snapped Devin Clark's head off with. But besides that, he didn't look good. I thought this was a mismatch because Devin Clark's a really good wrestler, junior college national champion, and William Knight got absolutely mauled by Dan Jung, who I wouldn't call a great wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. So Devin Clark did what he needed to do before he scored that knockout, which was really surprising because William Knight's shown to be durable.
Exactly, I do agree. I think it's a fantastic performance of Devin Clark. If you look at his striking numbers, 125 landed at 140. It just shows his accuracy and that he's definitely striking. He's definitely getting better, and the finish was beautiful. The way it started off with the elbow and then the left inside the clinch, and then he finished it, put him face down. That was the last, as you've talked about. That's probably the last outcome I expected for Devin Clark to win, either decision or submission. Did not expect Devin Clark to finish him on the feet, but it just shows that he's improving. Before the fight, I thought the move up for William Knight to heavyweight was a good idea. But now I look at it and I think maybe Devin Clark, that's a good move. I think the division's more wide open. But I feel like when he gets to the top of the division, he'll start to get overpowered, should we say. But I think the move up for Devin Clark is probably not a bad idea, but I feel like he's going to go back down to 205 pounds.
Devin Clark did beat Jake Collier. Jake Collier is not having a bad run right now, so
I wouldn't mind it.
If Devin Clark wants to eat all the food he wants and just be a middling heavyweight, he can do it. But if he wants to do well for himself, I say light heavyweight is still the way to go. I believe he was once ranked at light heavyweight. Same for William Knight. Go back to light heavyweight, dude.
He came in at 251.
Yeah. And it didn't help him. Let's be honest. It did not help him. He looked slower. It was not a good look for William Knight. I really think William Knight needs to, I don't know. I really feel like William Knight is a guy that came into the UFC too early for the Contender Series and just probably going to find himself cut eventually. We'll move on to the fight. This was a rematch 10 years in the making. Lena Lanesburg made her MMA debut against Penny, and she lost that fight, and she lost this fight again. There was a 10-year gap between them the first time around. And once again, this time, Lena was the one that was 40, and Penny's just 30. So I thought this was almost a foregone conclusion that Penny would win this fight. Just quicker, younger, more active. And that's kind of what happened here. There was a clinch battle a lot of the fight. And, Penny got the better of her the whole fight, except for the second round where she got knocked down with an elbow. They call it the Queen of the Elbows for a reason. But the third round was how I thought the whole fight would play out. I didn't think we'd see that much clinching. I thought it'd be more of a striking battle. And in that kind of battle, Penny pieced up Lena and showed why she was such a big favorite.
Yeah, we talked about it before we came into on the show. Paddy Kitty she has fantastic boxing, and once again it showed that she's level above Lena Osberg on the striking realm, and definitely as we talked about before is I think the activeness of Pina Kanziad was going to be a difference maker, and it showed being 2 years away from the octagon and jumping straight in there with a top 15 woman. It wasn't going to go very well, and Pina Kanziad showed how good she is. And that she is the better fighter out of the two of them. This is 2-0 for her now. So that is a good matchup, a good fight. And I'd definitely like to see Pani get a top 10 fight. I think she might be ranked maybe in the top 10 now.
Yeah, I believe she is. And I believe the Aspen Ladd fight should be next for her. Aspen Ladd's falling on hard times, and Penny's making way up. I think that makes sense. We'll move on to the next fight. The return of Jakar Close. He scored himself a second-round KO against Brandon Jenkins. Close looked amazing. he had a performance pretty much equally as good as to Aaron Pico's performance. He paced up Brandon Jenkins. Brandon Jenkins is not a defensively responsible fighter. He's shown it many times. He made Rongju look like Armin Sarukian. So when I saw these two matched up, I was thinking this is a mismatch, and it was. It simply was. Jakar Close was minus 600, and I think that was due to the fact that the shove did that kind of damage to Close. If there was no shove and all we had was Jakar Close almost knocking out Padillo Dariush, I think Jakar Close would have been like minus 1100. I really think this was an awful matchup for Jenkins. Close is quicker, more powerful, way better wrestler, and I thought he was going to out wrestle him this fight. He went out there looking for bonus money because guys been fighting 2 years, probably needs the money, and he wrecked Jenkins's face, man. Really good performance by Close. Happy to see him getting back in there. I don't know what he has against Marco Madsen.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think Jakar Close I think this was a statement he wanted to make in this fight. I feel like he didn't want to wrestle, and I feel like he definitely wanted to knock him out and prove his striking's get better. And I think he definitely did. And as you talked about Jenkins coming off the PFL, it wasn't the greatest of matchups. Definitely a mismatch against Jakar Close, who has had a close fight against Benaud Darouche less than 2 years ago, who's in top 5 now. So it just shows that it is level above Jenkins, and there's definitely a matchup that probably shouldn't have happened. But a comeback fight, you can't complain. And Close definitely looked the better man this night. Is definitely the better fighter. It'd be interesting to see where he goes from here. I think there's some fantastic matchups that they can make in the lightweight division with him.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think he shouldn't get Madsen. I think he should get Vince Pichel, just because the inactivity. We'll move on next to Rafa Garcia's win over Jesse Ronson. I picked Rafa Garcia on the show. I actually ended up picking Jesse Ronson. I just couldn't trust Rafa Garcia after he gassed out bad in the Grutzmacher fight. But Jesse Ronson, on the other hand, he was coming off a long layoff. He's now a clean athlete, and he didn't look good. He looked like a guy that had a lot of ring rust. And Rafa Garcia clearly won the first round with wrestling. I thought Jesse Ronson would just, I don't know what I was thinking. I thought he would be, better with his takedown defense. And in the second round, Rafa Garcia's more success. He fouls Jesse Ronson. I believe a point was taken. And then we get right back to it. And Rafa Garcia gets extra aggressive because he knows he's down that round. And he gets himself a rear naked choke. Which I never really rated Garcia's submission offense, because he was submitting people in Combates Americas, but the UFC's not looked for any submissions. So Rafa Garcia showed a new tool in the skill set in this fight, and Jesse Ronson just looked really flat. And I think this either might just be the layoff or it's the fact that he's now a clean athlete.
Yeah, I've got to agree. This is a fantastic. If you look at Rafa Garcia's record inside the UFC, I believe he hasn't lost. He's just got a draw, I believe. So, he's a fantastic fighter. And as you talked about, Jesse Ronson having that time off, now a clean athlete. He upset. Who was it?
Nicholas Dalby.
There we go, Nicholas Dalby. And Nicholas Dalby's a fantastic fighder.
Yeah.
He just clipped him and then submitted him, I believe, if I'm correct. Then Rafa Garcia. So it was a hard test for him. And I understand why he switched, but definitely the ring rust, the time outside the cage, and obviously being a clean athlete, it definitely didn't show well for Ronson this night. And it'd be interesting to see where he goes from here, but it's an interesting move going forward. But Rafa Garcia, he intends to improve every single fight. But as you said, he's gashed out in the past, and if the fight goes to the round 3, I would tend to favor his opponent, but it didn't get there. He didn't allow it to get there, so it shows his finishing instinct, and it was another win inside the record. So it's a good win for him as well in the lightweight division, the stat lightweight division.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next fight. Chris Barnett, he lost to Martin Boule by technical unanimous decision in the 3rd round. This was the other technical decision, and I thought this one was a just technical decision. This was a card of mismatches in my opinion. Bidet was in my parlays because Chris Barnett is a very short, undersized heavyweight, and Boule has the perfect style to fight him. Why fight at distance with this guy and let him wheel kick you in the face? You just get him up against the fence, use your size, use your strength, and the guy will tire out. You can land vicious knees to the body, and that's what happened. Boule kneed him right in the right in the ribs a ton of times. Barnett claimed his rib was broken, and that's when I knew the fight was not far from being over. And it looked like that because Barnett was getting hurt bad. He was rocked. Boule was about to finish the fight, but I don't know what he was thinking, throwing an elbow right to the back of the head. But I feel like Barnett might have been to blame there. I'm not sure. At the end of the day, Boule was the rightful winner in this fight, and Barnett. I don't know if the UFC likes to market Barnett like they do. Why would you give him such an awful matchup? And yeah, it was an awful matchup as I thought it was. Boule looked good out there, despite the foul. And I think he gives a lot of problems to guys in this division. The guy's very physically imposing, and with that clinch style that he has, I think he can beat a lot of guys.
Yeah, it's nice to see two, fresh faces inside the heavyweight division. Chris Barnett and, Martin Boule, fresh face inside the heavyweight division. Barnett making his second appearance and Boule making his first appearance. So it's nice to see these guys getting it, getting to get it done on the big stage. And as you said, Martin Boule, fantastic win, a great performance against probably an outmatched, as you said, Chris Barnett. As soon as he got tired, just never looked inside the fight. And them knees inside the clinch from Martin Boule were lethal. It was unbelievable. And as you talked about, Chris Barnett told his coaches that his rib might be broken. And then the 7 minutes and 44 seconds of control time, it just shows how good he is. He could do it anywhere. And I'm excited to see where he goes with me. I think he's got a good future, as you talked about. I think he can give some heavyweights at the top of the top 15, top 10. I think he can give us some trouble.
Yeah, and it's not like the guy was slowing down either. And Barnett had a chance of turning the tide. I think that was the right move, technical decision for Boule. We'll move on to Jordan Levitt's unanimous split decision win over Trey Ogden. And there was some debate over the scoring of this fight. At the end of the day, Jordan Levitt, was he doing a ton of damage with those leg kicks? Not really, but was Ogden doing anything significant? No, he wasn't. So Levitt, in my opinion, was the rightful winner. He was way busier in this fight, in the second round in particular. The first round went to Ogden, in my opinion. Levitt won the second round with those leg kicks. Third round, Ogden was gassed. He got stuck on bottom. Jordan Levitt, I'm surprised he wasn't able to put off submission, but I guess Ogden's learned from his past mistakes getting submitted by the same guy with a guillotine in like 2 minutes. I think he's improved, but I don't think he's UFC caliber, quite honestly. Trey Ogden, when you're losing on the feet to Jordan Levitt, that's not a good look at all. And when you're supposed to be a submission artist and you really can't do anything off your back, it's just not a good look. It's really not a good look. Jordan Levitt is a guy that I've been looking to bet against, but they keep on giving him favorable matchups, and he keeps on winning them. So hopefully he gets a step up next, where people can finally see how flawed his game is.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about Jordan Levitt before the fight, and you were talking about his striking and his striking defense, and as you talked about, Ogden making it look to improve, and that was not a good look for him, and I definitely agree. Maybe not UFC caliber, but yeah, this was a weird fight, interesting fight. As you talked about, Ogden getting the first round, and Jordan Levitt getting the second and third round. But the leg kicks, as you talked about, he landed 52 out of 59, but not much, doing too much damage. It was just touching him. It was just touching him, and just letting him know he's there. And this was a good fight for Jordan Levitt. He improves, another win. But yeah, definitely one that I won't watch again.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We'll move on to the next fight. Stella Nunes, as a 2-1 favorite, lost to Sam Hughes by a majority decision. This was another fight where we saw a ton of fouls. Stella Nunes could not keep her fingers to herself. She kept on sticking them right in Sam Hughes' eye. Taking a point was the right move, but it didn't necessarily matter because I scored the second round for Sam Hughes. First round obviously went to Stella Nunes. Nunes threw with bad intentions. She's got real power, but Hughes has shown she's pretty tough. So in that second round, the first half went to Nunes, but Sam Hughes made the adjustments, and I was really impressed with what she did out there because I really doubted her in this fight. And in the third round, she really it was more of the same. She was getting she got the takedown and got the control time. I think Sam Hughes has learned from her past fights where she's unable to adapt. She adapted in this one. Nunes has a serious pacing issue, I would say. But nice to see Sam Hughes get a win because boy, she was fed to the wolves right away.
And we both wrote off Sam Hughes in this fight massively when we were talking on the preview show. We were talking about how Nunes fought for the one championship belt, didn't go her way. She's fought the better stellar competition, and then Sam Hughes in her last three fights, has been fed. Honestly, almost really good fighters. I can't remember the top of my head. Tisha Torres, John Hume Fry as well. So I believe, if I'm correct,
Juan Pinheiro.
Oh, I thought it was John Hume Fry. What am I talking about? Anyway, Sam Hughes, definitely getting a much deserved win. But we both thought Nunes was going to get this one done, and I still thought. But the way she came in, she was thrown with reckless abandonment, and she wasn't landing her punches, and it showed that Sam Hughes was just had a better head on her shoulders. So. The IQ was there, and that's what really got a job done. She learned to pace herself, land the punches, and not throw everything 100%, and just touching Nunes, and I think it worked. And it was a good performance, and definitely good to see her get inside the win column of the UFC, as we talked about. Big fed the Wolves inside the UFC for the first three fights.
Moving on, we had the opening of the card. Alatong Haley knocked out Kevin Kroom inside of a minute, 47 seconds. I picked Alatong Haley to win by knockout. I told you guys that he was one of the more powerful guys Kroom had fought. Kroom was going down a division. He did not look good on the scales. He's a big guy for this weight class, but I don't think the size advantage matters when your chin is that compromised. That's what it looked like to me. Kevin Kroom got hit with a good one, and right away Haley followed up, and he looked great out there. Super accurate strikes. And the Kroom just could not absorb the damage well at all. That was the story of this 47-second fight. Alatong Haley finally getting to showcase his power in the UFC. He's got to win over Don Bakary. I feel like he should have been an even bigger favorite on the card. This was another mismatch to me on this card. It's wild how this card was match made.
Yeah, I've got to agree. And as you talked about, the Kevin Kroom dropped down to 135 pounds. We talked about it in the previous show, and I think this the cherry on the top is definitely I think it's 145 pounds, if not 155 pounds for Kevin Kroom. And Harlan, as you talked about, Haley putting on the bombs, getting the job done in 47 seconds. Phenomenal work, and it was a fantastic way to kick off the card. But unfortunately, the rest of the card didn't really follow it.
Yeah, let's be honest. This card was lackluster at best. It just didn't feel like the sizzle was there, especially since we had a ton of fights outside of the UFC Apex. It's kind of a bummer that the UFC has fight nights in the Apex all the way until June 4th. It's a real shame because the crowd brings a different kind of energy. But Bellator, they did have fans. But I wouldn't say the card was way better. But boy, we had some memorable moments on this card nonetheless. I say we kick things off by talking about Socrates Hernandez versus we'll just start at the top of the card. I say we start at the top of the card. AJ McKee was the champion coming into this fight against Pitbull. This was a rematch after McKee had submitted Pitbull in the first round. McKee was a big favorite. I thought he was going to put away Pitbull again, but man, we all disrespected Pitbull in this fight, didn't we? Pitbull fought a very smart game plan in this fight, and he won back his title. In the first round, I did score that round for McKee. The second round, I scored for Pitbull ever so slightly. The big difference maker here was the leg kicks for Pitbull, and the fact that he was throwing with worse intentions than McKee. I really thought he was landing heavier. And in the third round, he rocks McKee, and then he goes for the guillotine. Almost gets it, but McKee slips his head out. I thought that was a clear round for Pitbull. And the fourth round, I slightly gave it to Pitbull. In the 5th round, a clear McKee round. He started using his wrestling. And if he used his wrestling earlier, I think we'd be talking about McKee retaining his belt right now. But this was not a good performance for McKee at the end of the day. And Frere did exactly what he needed to win. He stayed out of danger. And I don't agree with those people criticizing this decision. I feel like McKee simply did not do enough to keep his belt.
Yeah, I've got to agree, and I think it was a close fight. I think Patricio did enough in the rounds that he won, and then McKee obviously in that 5th round, just a little bit too late. He started to use the wrestling, and as he talked about, if he used that earlier, we'd definitely be talking about him retaining the belt. But yeah, I feel like this is sets up the trilogy now for them, and that's definitely going to be, if not probably the biggest fight in Bellator history. So that's something they've created. But AJ McKee is definitely their star boy. So it'll be interesting. AJ McKee, Bellator star boy, and Patricio Pitbull, arguably the best Bellator fighter that they've had on their roster ever in their existence. So it's a fantastic fight. I'd like to see it again. Why not? I think the Bellator will make it again straight away. But I think it was a close fight. AJ McKee just didn't do enough in this fight, and it showed. And I think the Patricio Pitbull made the correct adjustments to getting the nod, and he was more letting AJ McKee come towards him. And we talked about Patricio Pitbull. He's counting his strikes is unbelievable, and as you talked about in that 3rd round, hurt him badly, and almost got him with that guillotine. That would have been bittersweet for him. But yeah, it was a fantastic win from Patricio Pitbull and regained the belt once again. I think the trilogy's next for them.
We did hear McKee say that he does not want to fight at 145 pounds anymore. He says he wants to go to 155, which that makes zero logical sense, because if he were to go to 155, he's not going to get a title shot off the bat because he just lost. He just lost to the other Pitbull brother. So I don't think it makes sense to give him a title shot right away, especially when you got much more deserving contenders. I think even Aaron Pico deserves a title shot more than AJ McKee at 155. So AJ McKee's in a weird spot because he was overlooking Pitbull the whole week. He's talking about, I'll be UFC champion one day. I'll knock out Volkanovski, this and that. And he was overlooking the challenge right in front of him. Pitbull was ready to fight 5 hard rounds in this fight, and McKee was kind of looking like he was gonna do the same thing to Pitbull. Again, that was not the case. McKee got humbled. He really got humbled because he was talking about he was the best fighter in the world. I don't think he's the best fighter in the world, especially when you're capable of performances this lackluster. So, I say the people that score the fight for McKee, I think you ought to look it back and look at the kind of heavy shots that Frere was landing the whole fight. I think he won that fight decisively, in my opinion. We'll move on to the co-main event, which was so weird. The first round, Nemkov was able to stuff takedowns, was able to do the better work on the feet. And, man, after that, he just didn't look at it at all. Corey Anderson started getting his wrestling offense going, got a lot of control time, landing heavy ground and pound. And in the 3rd round, more of the same. But we get that accidental headbutt, and neither man walks up with the big $1 million novelty check. It was so hilarious that they had the check ready. They had it ready to present it. They had to walk it down and just get rid of it because neither guy won here. It was declared a no contest, and it's a real shame because this was a championship fight. And if we had seen the 4th round start, Corey Anderson would be the Bellator champion via technical decision, but that's not the case. And Nemkov gets to keep his belt, but I don't think he keeps his belt when these guys run it back.
I've got to agree. I think by the time when the fight finished, I believe in my eyes anyway, I think Corey Anderson was 2-1 up. I think the first round Nemkov, and then the second and 3rd round, I think it was Anderson's way, and obviously what happened at the end of the round was unfortunate. But it was quite a weird decision. I agree with the no contest. It was a weird one because I felt like I don't think you could pin it on either guy. It's a hard one to make, and I think they definitely made the right call But now, as you talked about, they're going to run it back straight away. And I feel like we're going to see sort of the same fight. And I think Corey Anderson has felt Vadim Nemkov knows what to expect. So I think we're going to see an even cleaner performance from Anderson in that rematch. But yeah, it's just a real shame because Corey Anderson's been hunting for that, the major MMA league title. And this is a chance to get it. And unfortunately, another tale in his story has gone wrong.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I think these guys run it back in the next 5 months, hopefully. And I think Anderson gets that belt back. And I would actually think he gets like a 4th or 5th round TKO because I felt like he broke Nemkov. I really think he did. Nemkov had a flat performance in Corey Anderson. He's improved by leaps and bounds since like his Ultimate Fighter days, where he was getting, where in his early UFC days, getting knocked out by John Belate. Now you could argue he's the best in the world right now. He does have a win over Jan Blachowicz. He beat the champion in the UFC, Glover Teixeira. If you say he's the best in the world right now, I won't argue with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic argument, 100%. But yeah, it was a good win. A good fight by the time it ended. So it was a fantastic fight. I definitely can't wait for it to run it back. It's just unfortunate the next one. I'm not too sure whether the 1 million will be up for grabs. So that's unfortunate.
It will be. It will be. They kept the bracket open. I would have felt really bad if the 1 million was off the table, but they showed on the broadcast that the bracket is still undecided. So yeah. It's not over quite just yet.
Cool. That's good to see.
Because that would have been an unfortunate end to this World Grand Prix, which, let's be honest, it fell apart quickly once Romero versus Rumble was off the table. I knew things were not going to go well. And Rumble wins his fight, then he's out of the tournament. Rumble might be the best light heavyweight in Bellator. We just might not know it. So, a lot of question marks even after this World Grand Prix. But let's move on to the next fight. There is no question that Aaron Pico is on the rise. Aaron Pico got himself a 3rd round TKO over Adelaide Edwards. Edwards is a Tony Ferguson doppelganger. You cannot tell me different. The guy is tough as nails. He looks just like Tony Ferguson. Aaron Pico has lever shots from hell, man. Pico is so powerful, so explosive. One of the best wrestlers in all of MMA. He was one of the best prospects for a while there, but he did get viciously knocked out. He lost a couple. Now he's on a really good win streak. I think Pico is, I would say, a fight or two from a title shot, quite honestly, because he's performing so well. And he looked every bit of the minus 1100 favor in this fight. I really like what I've been seeing from Pico recently.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think that move to Jackson Wink has been a fantastic one. I think the next fight, well, we'll talk about this fight actually. I think it was a fantastic fight. And as you talked about, Edwards, reminiscent of Tony Ferguson. It was he took a lot of shots, took a lot of heavy shots. And as you were talking about, them liver shots, that left hook to the body from Aaron Pico is a thing of nature. It's phenomenal. He hits like an absolute truck. And obviously, we know how good his wrestling is. He's got all the tools to become Bellator champion. It's just how he uses them. And his fight IQ is definitely improved since from his losses. And I think he's setting himself a good run as of late. I think it's the only way is off Aaron Pico. But I think the next one for him now is that rematch against Adam Borix. Adam Borix just beat Mads Burnell, and I think that one makes sense next.
Yeah, if Borix gets the title shot, do the Burnell fight. Either way, I think Pico's got a real shot at being both guys. Now he's involved as a fighter, and he's a little more defensively responsible. Of course, against Adelaide Edwards did not have exactly the skill set of threatening him, so he could open up more. So yeah, Pico looked fantastic. Got their 3rd round TKO for him. Edwards is a guy that should stick around in Bellator. The guy's tough as nails. He's got a good record. We'll move on to the open of the card. Tim Johnson lost to Lyndon Marcel. TKO in round 1. Man, Tim Johnson was on his way to finishing that fight, wasn't he? And then Marcel gets on top. Heavy ground and pound. We picked Marcel to win this via TKO, but we did not expect him to be in this kind of trouble.
Yeah, Lyndon Vassell, I talked about it on the previous show. If you let Lyndon Vassell get on top of you and flatten you out, it's game over. This guy on the ground is phenomenal. It's incredible. And, we saw a British guy, wrestle Tim Johnson get the better of him. He's showing that, and he never went to college, never went to university, anything like that. It's just pure hard work and determination. That's what you get from Linton. It just never stopped grinding. He got knocked down, and then he held on to that single leg for so long, and eventually a break came through, and he got it, and he got the job done, and he took the back. And as soon as he took the back, Tim Johnson was in bad trouble, and it looked like all that work of trying to finish the fight, throwing the punches, kind of took his toll on Tim Johnson, and he just didn't. Maybe the gas weren't there, but Linton Vassell got on top, flattened him out, and got the eventual ground and pound finish, and that's 4 in a row for him now. I think if he doesn't get the title shot next, I think maybe Valentin Moldovsky is definitely the fight to make. Is who he called out in the post-fight interview. I think Valentin Moldovsky versus Linton Vassell, they have fought before. It was when Linton Vassell moved up to heavyweight for the first time. Didn't go his way, and I think it's a good fight. I think Linton Vassell was obviously on a 4-fight winning streak, and Valentin Moldovsky coming off a title loss to Ryan Bader, so definitely makes sense.
I agree with you there. We'll move on the prelims, Isaac. I say we head right.
I don't want to talk about that Gracie. If you watched that fight, that was
awful. Fortune got a nice TKO early. Yaksher Murdoch looked super aggressive, looked a little leaner, and he wrecked Cavallo in that fight. But I really want to get to this fight. This fight stole the weekend, in my opinion. Socrates Hernandez versus Rogelio Luna. This was a banger. These guys fought like they had infinite cardio in that first round. Those guys would not stop throwing punches out there. And I thought Socrates Hernandez was doing well early in the fight. He was cracking Luna with a lot of shots. Luna was bleeding. His mouthpiece was dropping a lot. I actually thought I'll be honest, I knew nothing about either fighter heading into there. Luna was a debutant. Socrates had never won a pro fight, so I wasn't expecting much, but these guys put their hearts and soul out there. They fought. Both guys are unbelievably tough. But as I was saying, Socrates Hernandez won that first round, but Luna was still throwing heat right back, and that second round was wild. I think it's one of the best rounds I've seen all year. Socrates Hernandez starts getting clipped, and Luna's just not even breathing heavy. He's throwing everything and the kitchen sink at him, and Socrates is not going down. I really thought Luna was almost about to finish him, but Socrates would not go away. And what's even crazy, I was scoring a 10-8 round for Luna, and then Socrates gets a takedown, takes his back, but he's so exhausted he really can't do anything. So Socrates somehow had the wherewithal to get some control time on the mat. And in that third round, man, Luna starts just putting it on him, and he's slowed down ever so slightly, and eventually the referee he's seen enough. Socrates is one of the toughest guys I've ever seen in there. I don't know how. I just don't know how the guy was not knocked out by some of those strikes. Luna threw everything with bad intentions and could not put him away for over 10 minutes. This fight was a jaw-dropping war. I just can't express to you how crazy this fight was. If these guys were like high-level fighters, we'd be talking about this fight as one of the best fights of all time. But just the pure violence of this fight, it's like top 3 best Bellator fights ever.
Yeah, I've got to agree. It's definitely up there. We're talking up there, with Eddie Alvarez versus Michael Chandler. It was fantastic. Heart of two warriors, and Luna getting the best of him as well, and is potentially losing as well. And yet to come back and get the job done. He finished the fight, and it was a fantastic win. It just shows his determination, his heart, where his mentality is at. A fantastic fight. I loved it. And I talked earlier that with the fight against I can't remember where I said I wouldn't watch it again, but this is a fight that I could watch again and again and again. It was fantastic violence. Yeah. It's fantastic. Bellator put on a good card. I think it was the better card out of the weekend, and it was a good look for him. They definitely put on the better fights, and I think it delivered.
Yeah, and that's a rare occasion. The UFC, they're the Coca-Cola of MMA, but this time around, it looked like Pepsi got the better of Coca-Cola. That was just plain and simple. We'll move on to the UFC card for this Saturday.
Not quite.
What?
We got the Bellators.
Oh yeah, Bellator is in Hawaii. Bellator 278. Julian Velasquez
Back.
versus Liz Carmouche. I really like this main event. Liz Carmouche is somebody that the UFC let go because she was beating all the best ones. She beat Kaylin Chukagan. She beat Jennifer Maia, I believe. She was. If you wanted Liz Carmouche to do Liz Carmouche, after she lost her title shot, there was like nothing the UFC could do with her because she was aging, and they needed people for Valentine to fight. Liz Carmouche was not going to let that happen. So now she's in Bellator, undefeated in Bellator. She beat Deanna Bennett in the last fight, I believe. She's on a good run here, and she's fighting Juliana Velasquez, undefeated. She dethroned the champion Ilima McFarlane, which I thought McFarlane was going to sit atop that throne for a while, but Velasquez had she had the superior skill set everywhere in that fight. She was tagging her with good shots, out wrestling her. I think Velasquez is the full package, man. She's a judo champion over in Brazil. I really like her skill set. I would love to see her in the UFC someday. I think she would be a top 5 talent in the UFC. But in this matchup, I think this is a very close matchup. We know Liz Carmouche also is the whole package. She's got good striking. Her wrestling's really good. Only really came up short to Valentina. So it's a very tough one to pick here. What I see here is Velasquez being a quicker striker here. I think she beats her to the punch. But I think Carmouche might be able to get some takedowns and make this a close fight. In the end, I think I'll side with Liz Carmouche to get a split decision. Everybody talks about how physically strong she is. I think she might be able to get enough control time here, but if it stays striking for a long amount of time, I think Velasquez has the edge.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you, and I like Velasquez in this one. As you talked about, she's the full package: the striking, the grappling, the wrestling. She's really got it all, and I feel like she's gonna. This is obviously her biggest test in her career against a former UFC title challenger in Liz Carmouche. This is a veteran, experienced. She's been around for best in the world. I think Velasquez is definitely going to be tested this weekend. But I believe she's going to come through with flying colours. Definitely gonna. I don't think she's gonna stop Liz Carmouche. I think Liz Carmouche is definitely not going to be finished. I think we're going to see this is going to go to the end to the scorecards. But I feel like we're just going to see control time from Velasquez in this one, and I think the striking as well is going to look good. But yeah, this is a fantastic fight in the main event. This one's not as stacked as the other Bellator card that we have literally on the next day. They're going back to back in Hawaii, so this one's not as stacked. Pretty much the only main event is the only good card, a good fight on this card. We do have, if I look at the bottom here, I believe Eric Perez, former UFC fighter, as well against CJ Hamilton. But yeah, the main event is really what I'm looking forward to on Bellator 278 as well. But I think this is a fantastic fight. I think Julian Velasquez is going to get it done.
Yeah, and Julian Velasquez in the last fight, she fought Denise Kielholtz, who was just 6-2. If you're going to a split with a 6-2 fighter, you're gonna have a tough night with Liz Carmouche. I'll just say that. Liz Carmouche has that wealth of experience. I'll just say she had the first women's MMA fight in UFC history. She's been around the block. I think Liz Carmouche is gonna be a real challenge for her at 16-7. I think Liz Carmouche walks away with the belt.
100%. This is Oscar's told you so to fight them.
Yep.
Yeah, so as we talked about, Bellator 278 goes down this Friday. Not too much really to talk about on the rest of this card. We've got Christian Edwards as well. He's a good prospect against Grant Neal, the brother of Jeff Neal. So that'd be interesting to watch. Eric Barzola used to fight in the UFC in the co-main event. Zach Zane, I believe it is, versus Tarek Musiev. He's a former former Ryzen champion. Beat Tricky Pitbull. Too much. I can't really remember too much of him. Eric Perez, as I talked about, against CJ Hamilton. That's a good one in the prelims. And then Weber Almeida as well on the prelims. He's a good prospect to look out for. But this is good. I like how the Bellator are going back to back in Hawaii. I can't remember the last card that was actually in Hawaii, to be honest, whether it was Bellator or UFC.
Yeah, it's been a real while. I think it'll be a solid card, but I think we'll be talking about more about Bellator 278. But
None.
yeah, which card do you want to talk about next?
Bellator 279, which is the next day.
Yep, all right. So Bellator 279 is headlined by Chris Cyborg defending her featherweight Bellator championship versus Ariane Blanco. This is a rematch, and this is a rematch that absolutely nobody asked for. I'll just be blunt there. Blanco got decisively finished in that first fight. There was no question about who was the better fighter once the fight was over. And to see Bellator rebook it again, it just lets you know that that division is really thin. And I guess they just gave it to Blanco because she is on a winning streak, and this fight is in Hawaii, her home state. And I really think that we're gonna see some good work by Cyborg in this fight. I think Cyborg is gonna knock her out. I'll say round 2. I think Michael might be able to just survive that first round, but after that, I just think Cyborg puts a vicious beating on her.
Yeah, it's pretty much game over, isn't it, for Ariane Blanco? So you're in your face with Chris Cyborg, one of the best women fighters that we have in the history of MMA, and they fought before, and it didn't go well for her the first time, and I believe it's not going to go well for the second time. I've not seen enough in Blanco's game to really convince me that she's going to win this one. I remember when it was announced when Sinead Kavanagh beat Leah McCourt that she was going to get the shot, and then it came out that Blanco was going to get shot. So I'm not too sure if Chris Cyborg wins this one. I know Bellator go back to Dublin, so maybe it's Chris Cyborg versus Sinead Kavanagh and Bellator in Dublin. As you talked about, this one, it really doesn't make sense for me. But it just shows Chris Cyborg moved away from the UFC because didn't have a good relationship. The division was too thin. And it just shows that she's coming up to rematches already inside the Bellator division. So it just shows how thin she is and how great she is, to be honest.
Oh, by the way, I messed up. I said Blanco was a Hawaiian. She's not Hawaiian. She's Australian. I don't. That was a brain fart on my end. Nonetheless, I really think Cyborg is good. The fact that they announced that Sinhead Kavanagh was going to fight her, and then they eventually went with Ariane Blanco, I think it might be Bellator's message that the Cyborg is going to wreck Blanco quick, and she's going to be healthy enough to get in there with Kavanagh. I think that might be the honest truth.
Yeah, I've got to agree. And definitely, if you look at the rest of the card as well, we've got a fantastic rest of the card. Juan Archuleta versus Rafael Stotts. That's a fantastic fight. I believe that's the start of the Bantamweight Grand Prix as well, if I'm correct.
It is. It is. And it's the interim Bantamweight Championship because, of course, Sergio Pettis, he's not in this World Grand Prix. He had to pull out. He was going to fight his teammate, Rafael Stotts. But fortunately for him, now Juan Archuleta is in there. And Archuleta is, I think he's a staple of the Bellator's bantamweight division. Sure, he did lose to Pitbull and Pettis. But besides that, the guy has just been on a fantastic run. Beating guys like Ricky Bandejas, Eduardo Dantas, former champion, Henry Corrales, Patchy Mix. He's beating the vast majority of this division. But I really think Rafael Stotts is giving him a look that he's not had before. Stotts is the whole package. In his last fight, he was able to beat Magomed Magomedov, one of the two men to ever beat Piotr Jan. And before that, he beat Josh Hill, and he beat Kevin Lee's brother, Keith Lee. I really like what I've been seeing from Rafael Stotts. He's on a really good run. And I think this will be a competitive fight the whole way through. But at the end of the day, I don't think this fight will be on the ground much. I think Stotts will mix in takedowns, but I really think on the feet, Stotts will be able to outpoint him. And Archuleta does have big power on his end, but Stotts he's like so unique. He comes out of Rufus Sport, and he's their real hope for the next champion. I really think Stotts gets a decision here.
I've got to agree. I think this is a fantastic matchup that Bellator put on. Well, in the round one of the Grand Prix, I think Stotts is a good fighter, and Juan Archuleta is a fantastic test for Stotts. But I believe this is a good matchup. The right move forward for his direction. It was meant to fake Pettis, as you talked about, his teammate. That would have been an awkward one in the gym. But yes, I think this is a good, fantastic fight. But I believe Stotts is going to be getting the better of Juan Archuleta. I believe it could be grappling and striking, but I don't believe, as you talked about, I don't believe it's going to be grappling. I think Stotts is going to get the better of him on the feet. But don't write out Archuleta. He's a fantastic fighter. He's definitely one of the best in Bellator. As you talked about, he's beat some fantastic guys. Only lost to Patricio. I can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. But yeah, he's fought some fantastic fighters inside the Bellator division, and I think Stotts is going to be another name. Is going to get past the Juan Archuleta test. Who's definitely a short nose. So it's definitely a good fight, but I think Stotts is going to get the better of him.
I agree with you there. We'll move on to Kauji Horiguchi versus Patchy Mix. I love this fight on paper. This is a bit of a striker versus grappler fight. Patchy Mix is a really good grappler, man. The guy is out of Extreme Couture. He can grapple with the best of them. And his only loss is to Juan Archuleta. And that was a vacant title fight there. So he was one fight away from getting that belt. And it's not like Archuleta dominated him in that fight. So Patchy Mix, his title hopes are still very alive, in my opinion. And he's training with a lot of UFC level guys too. It's not like he's training with bums out there at Extreme Couture. And he's fighting Kauji Horiguchi, who was beating the current champion Sergio Pettis. He was winning that fight decisively before he got hit with a spinning back fist from hell. That does not detract from the fact that he's probably the best Bellator has to offer right now. And he's got a huge striking advantage versus Patchy Mix. I know Patchy Mix can mix in takedowns, threaten submissions, got a Sulov stretch on his record. He's beaten Andre Ewell and Tony Gravely. I think Patchy Mix will be champion one day, but today's not that day. I think Kauji Horiguchi finds himself a unanimous decision in that fight. I really like his whole skill set, man. His striking was looking so good against Pettis, and I don't think Mix has that kind of striking to threaten Kauji.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think Horiguchi is definitely the favourite in this one, and definitely the better fighter out of the two of them. As for now, I think, as you talked about, Mix is definitely going to be a champion, definitely going to be a contender in the future. But I just believe his time is not now. And I mean, Horiguchi is going to put on a good performance. He was putting on a good performance, as you talked about, against Sergio Pettis, but until he got clipped and got his lights put out. But I just don't believe Mix can put his lights out. I think that's the only way he can win. Other than that, I think Horiguchi can keep the fight standing, and I think he's going to look better on the feet as well. I mean, Horiguchi is a fantastic fighter on the Bellator roster. Definitely, if he's inside the UFC, I believe he could be in the flyweight or the bantamweight division and be top 5, top 3. So it just shows the levels that the Bellator are on right now, and I think Horiguchi is a fantastic fighter. It's a brilliant fight on the main event. Main card, I mean. And I think Horiguchi is going to get the better of Patchy Mix, and I think it's going to be one that I'm going to want to watch again.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next fight. Man, this card is, I think this card is getting overlooked. You got the former champion Alima, like McFarlane, taking on Justin Kish, the UFC veteran. Justin Kish, she lost her Bellator debut to Deanna Bennett. Not much shame in that loss. Before that, she lost a split decision to Tracy Cortez. I had a lot of money bet on Tracy Cortez by decision, and boy, oh boy, was I sweating it when she was tagging Tracy a lot on the feet. It was a split decision. I didn't agree with that, but I think she won that third round, man. Justin Kish is a solid striker. She did have a really tough go in the UFC there for a bit, but when she was in the UFC, before the UFC, she beat Randa Marcos. She has a win over Nina Nunes. She has a win over Ashley Yoder. She beat Lucy Pudilova. And I wouldn't say her losses look great on paper, but you look at her overall skill set, and she's not good on bottom. I'll tell you that. She crapped her pants trying to get up off of Ashley Yoder, but nonetheless, I think in terms of striking, she's got that real meanness to her, and her skill set is just not enough to beat Alima Lake McFarlane, who's such a good fighter, man. She was undefeated as a champion before she lost the belt to Velasquez. I think McFarlane has her outgunned everywhere. I think McFarlane keeps it on the feet and I think she outpoints her the whole time.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you, and this is a good one. It's a good fight. As you talked about, this is definitely an underlooked card. Back to back, it's a good one. So I'm looking forward to it. This is a good fight. It's Ilima McFarlane versus Justin Kish, former UFC fighter, and then Ilima McFarlane, a former bantamweight. Not bantamweight. It's bantamweight. Yeah, bantamweight. Former bantamweight. Or is it flyweight? Former flyweight, I think.
Flyweight, yeah.
Former flyweight Bellator champion. Yeah, this is a good fight. But yeah, you were talking about how these girls and how good they are. Justin Kish better on the feet, and the ground game not too great. And even McFarlane, I feel like that's where she shines a bit. And I feel like this might be the story of the fight. I think we might see McFarlane control on the ground a little bit and get a judge's scorecard win. Justin Kish, as you talked about in her debut, lost against Barnett. And I feel like she's going to lose this one as well to the former champion.
Yeah, I actually think McFarlane definitely could get herself a submission in this fight. Yeah, I'll change my pick. I'll say third round armbar for McFarlane.
Oh, actually, I just went off a bit too quickly. But yeah, it was a fantastic card. We also have a few more fights at the bottom of the card. We have Kai, your boy, Kamaka, on the fight against Justin Gonzalez, whose only loss is to Pico. And obviously, we've got the return of Yasin Medeiros in Bellator. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
which is a brilliant fight, man.
I love this card. Yamauchi's on the card. I really like this card. Make sure to tune in to this card, guys. I say we move on to the UFC's card. UFC Vegas 52. It is headlined by Amanda Lemos versus Jessica Andrade. And once that main event was announced, some people started souring on it, but I really believe that none of those people took a good look at that Lemos versus Angela Hill fight this past December, because that was given the fight of the night honors for good reason. Lemos is a bulldozer. In her UFC fights before that, she was knocking girls out inside of 2 minutes. She's got vicious one-punch KO power, which is very rare. She's like a unicorn in this division. So when she fought Angela Hill's super tough. She front kicked Angela Hill like twice in that fight, and Angela Hill would not go away. And Lemos herself, not only did she get tired, she got rocked by Hill as well. So that was a super fun fight. And you're telling me now she's fighting Jessica Andrade, who she had a war with Angela Hill. She's been around the block. I would say she's one of the best female fighters of all time. She's got wins in all three divisions. She knocked out Cynthia Calvillo in her last fight. Before that, she lost to Shevchenko, no shame. And then before that, she beat Katlyn Chookagian, who almost nobody beats Katlyn Chookagian in that flyweight division.
And she finished her too with a body shot.
Yeah. And she's the number one contender at flyweight still. She's still the number one contender. But since she already lost to Shevchenko, she's got no choice but to go back to strawweight, where the number 10 Lemos is there waiting for her. I think this is a fun fight. This is a great main event. I don't care what anybody says. I think this is going to be a war. And at the end of the day, Jessica Andrade is the way better grappler. But it's all about how much will she use it. Lemos will hurt Andrade in this fight. There's no doubt. Lemos is super scary at this weight class, but Andrade is almost impossible to finish, man. She went 5 rounds with Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She's fought a lot of great strikers, just been unable to lose. And let's not forget, some of those losses or those finishes, they were at 135. It's crazy. She was fighting at 135, and she was beating like women in the top 10 right now. She has a win over Pennington. I think Andrade is a freak of nature, quite honestly. She's got so much physical power. She's the former strawweight champion, dropped to Namajunas on her head. In the rematch, she did really well for herself. I think Andrade has 5-round cardio, better grappling. I think she tires out Lemos with grappling. I'll say come the 4th round, Lemos will be gassed and hurt bad. I think Andrade gets herself a 4th round TKO. I say standing TKO for Andrade.
I think this is a fantastic fight, and I do agree with you. People overlooking this main event. I feel like when the fans hear, a women's main event, they immediately write off. They immediately say this is not a good fight. I'm going to miss this one, or etc. I think this is a fantastic fight. I love it. I think there's two women that are going to stand in the center, and I think they're going to trade it. I'm going to be honest. Jessica George loves to have a firefight. She loves to get involved in these sort of fights, and I feel like eventually she will shoot for a takedown. She can mix up really well. As you were talking about, she's a pioneer in this game in women's mixed martial arts. She's fought at 135, fought at 115, fought at 125. I mean, she made the massive drop to 135 to 115 because there was no 125-pound division. But yeah, she's a pioneer. She's done it all clear in her career. 3 wins in different weight classes. It's incredible. And again, so I feel like the drop down to strawweight, I mean, again, and then she gets fed Amanda Lemos. I really like Amanda Lemos in this fight. I believe she has all the tools to get it done. You were talking about Jessica George being the better grappler. I do agree. I just see Amanda Lemos being able to keep the fight to the ground on the striking realm, and I see this being a coming out party for Lemos. We saw it happen with Zhang Wei Li, where she knocked out Jessica George, and I believe we're going to see maybe the sort of thing happen there, and I think we're going to see Amanda Lemos not stop, but I believe we might see a judge's scorecard win with Amanda Lemos. But as you talked about the slowing down, we haven't seen Amanda Lemos 5 rounds. That's the only thing that concerns me.
Yeah, I also think Andrade can get herself a submission here. It's all about how she wants to win this fight. But I really am banking on Lemos getting tied here because in that Angela Hill fight, she looked pretty much done. That third round could have went to anybody. Let's not forget that there was a real discussion about who actually won the Hill versus Lemos fight. Very close fight.
Yeah, I like Lemos in this fight. I think she's going to clip Andrade, and I feel like Andrade is going to be timid, scared of the power. But Andrade has power herself, so it's crazy. This fight could really go anyway.
I think this fight is madness. It could get a fight of the night bonus, but
100%.
There's a much better fight, I would say, opening up this card. But do not doubt this main event heading into this. I think we see a finish.
There's 2 fights that are much better that open this card.
Yeah. Co-main event is the return of Clay the Carpenter Guida, the UFC Hall of Famer. He's taking on Claudio Puelles, who's in really good form right now. In his last fight, he submitted Chris Grutzmacher with a knee bar. And in that fight, he clearly won that first round. He was a much better striker. But that second round, he got stuck on bottom for a considerable amount of time against Chris Grutzmacher, who I want to say is a great wrestler. Clay Guida is a great wrestler. Clay Guida, his style has not changed in a very long time. He's a serviceable striker. He can hurt you on the feet, but it's always going to be his wrestling that gets the job done with Clay. Clay has an unbelievable gas tank. The guy can run laps after fighting a hard 15. And he's just relentless pressure, relentless grappling. The Michael Johnson fight was a classic example of a great Clay Guida performance. In his last fight, he submitted an ADCC champion in Leonardo Santos. Clay's tough as nails. He got hit with a teep kick, and the fight was pretty much over, but Santos gassed out, and Clay Guida took that back and submitted him. That was a crazy comeback by Clay. Before that, he lost to Mark Madsen, which the takedown threat was there the whole fight, so not much of a shame in that one. But before that, as I said, he beat Michael Johnson. Clay Guida, he's in really good form. I really like what he's been doing. He's not, even though he's really long in the tooth, he's not one of those guys you look at him and be like, oh, I don't want to see that guy get beat up, or just, it's not one of those guys that makes you sad to see him fight, like Diego Sanchez. He's still in good form. Puelles is a young lion. He's got really good submissions, good kickboxing. He fights out of Stanford MMA. I think he's going to throw one too many kicks, get stuck on bottom. Clay Guida will bank 2 rounds with control time in this fight. I think Clay's the rightful favorite here. Sure, Puelles could catch him in a guillotine, something along those lines. But Clay Guida, we know what we're getting with Clay. And I think I like his method of victory in this fight, just to be by getting that control time. with those takedowns. And it's not like it's a wash on the feet with Puelles versus Guida. I really like Clay Guida in this fight by decision.
Yeah, I do too. I like Guida. As you talked about, we know what you get with Guida. That's that is volume on the feet and mixing it up with the wrestling. This guy, as you were talking about his age, he's getting older, but it just seems like he's just not slowing down. It's ridiculous. Whatever he's eating or taking, I think I need it delivered to the UK because it's incredible. It's phenomenal. But yeah, I like Clay Guida in this fight. I like it anyway. Striking concerns me a little bit. But I believe Clay Guida was getting this one to the ground and is going to control him. That's the only way I see this fight going. I think Clay Guida is going to control him on the ground, advance to positions. Do I see a finish happening by ground and pound? I'm not too sure. Maybe a submission is in there for Clay Guida, but I definitely know Clay Guida is going to get it done. Whatever by method of victory. I'm very confident on this one somehow.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next fight. Is not Boza versus Romanov. Boza had a pullout, unfortunately.
I think my quick prediction would have been though Romanov would have. I feel like he would. That would have been a demolition job.
I think he would have banked 2 rounds, but that third round would have been really tough, honestly. We'll move on to Maycee Barber versus Montana De La Rosa. I really like this fight. I've been waiting to see both of these women get back in the octagon. They both had a lot of canceled bouts, and eventually they got matched up against each other. Maycee Barber, the story of her UFC run has been so interesting. She wanted to be the youngest champion, but let's be frank, did not have the skill set to pull it off. She lost to Roxanne Modafferi. She blew her knee out in that fight, and she came back and she looked fairly good, but it felt like that ring rust was definitely a factor. Prior to the Roxanne fight, she would steamroll her opponents, man. Finish Jalen Robertson, finish Judge Aldridge, and Hannah Cyphers. Just super aggressive, but when you fight somebody as experienced as Roxanne, just didn't work out for her. In the Alexa Grasso fight, she fought a better boxer. It was that plain and simple. And then the Miranda Maverick fight, she lost that fight. I don't care what anybody says. That was one of the most egregious decisions of 2021. Just to give you my reasoning, in the second round, Maverick is ahead on the striking stats. Maverick gets a takedown. That should bank the round right, not for those judges. So, in my opinion, Maycee Barber is on a 3-fight skid. But here's the thing. They give her a step down in competition. Montana De La Rosa, she will have her way with fighters like Ariane Lipsky, like Mara Barella. Fighters she has a significant grappling advantage over. On the feet, she's not really threatening. There's nothing, that'll overwhelm you. And I really think that's the factor in this fight. I think that Maycee Barber's wrestling defense has improved. She's been at Alpha Male for a while now. I think not only that, she can keep it on the feet. I think she can hurt Montana De La Rosa. I really think she's got more power, the quicker hands, more confidence in the striking overall. I think we'll see a decision here, and I think the control time that De La Rosa may be able to get will not matter because I think the damage will definitely be going to Maycee Barber.
Yeah, I've got to agree with this one. I think Maycee Barber, when she's throwing, she throws with, heaviness. When she lands, you can see it affect her opponents. As all you have to do is ask Julian Robertson when she finished him, finished her, and then obviously JJ Aldridge as well. So she's a fantastic fighter. She fell into the hands of Roxanne Modafferi and Alexa Grasso, better fighters on the day, and it was just a disappointment for her. But then she fought Miranda Maverick, and we both agree that Maverick won that fight. And now I believe this is definitely you could see the step down in competition that we're going. No disrespect to Montana De La Rosa, but I believe this is another step down for Maycee Barber. And I think maybe Maycee Barber is going to look good. She's going to get it done. The only way I can see her losing is the grappling, but I believe she's the better grappler. So this is a good fight. I think it's a good showcase fight for her, and I believe she could get it done pretty much how she wants. I think it's going to go to the scorecards though. But this could be another slip in the road for Maycee Barber. She's had a weird UFC career as of now. So who knows what could happen? But I like Maycee Barber in this one.
Yeah, one thing with Macy Barber too, in her last two fights, she did win that third round, undisputedly won the third round. So hopefully Macy starts quicker because she's not started quick in her last fight. So let's hope she does that against Montana. Moving on,
100%, I do
we
agree.
have a flyweight fight. This is a
Wow.
really exciting fight between two. I would say there's still prospects in the UFC. Sumiderji versus Manel Kopp. I love this fight. Both guys are strikers. Sumiderji has vicious power, really good size for this division. In his last fight, he fought who was it? It was Malcolm X Gordon, and good man. One punch, and Gordon was curled up, not wanting to take any more. Manal Kopp is another guy who has vicious knockout power. In his last fight, he fought Zhalgas Zhumagulov, and Zhalgas has over 20 wins, very few losses, and he goes in there, clips Zhalgas, and puts him out, man. Uh, both guys are guys in the flyweight division that have legitimate KO power. Manel Kopp, before that, knocks out Odie Osborne flying knee. Before that, he had a rough start to the UFC run. He fought Pantoja, and he lost the fight because he just wasn't active enough. And same thing happened in the Mateus Nicolau fight, but I thought that was a bit of a robbery there, honestly. Sumideshi, on the other hand, his problem is the submission defense. When they matched him up with Tim Elliott, I was so ready to bet Tim Elliott by submission, but it didn't come to fruition. And now he's fighting I would say a fighter that does have really good wrestling, but not use it a ton. I think he will use it here against Sumideshi, but at the end of the day, I see Manel Kopp landing heavier strikes. I think he can score a knockdown here too, but I've not seen any evidence to show me that Sumideshi has a weak chin. So I say I'll go with Manel Kopp by unanimous decision. I think he's the better striker here. I just hope he really opens up like he's done in his last couple fights.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I like Minnow Cap in this one. I think Minnow Cap is going to get it done. It won't surprise me if Minnow Cap gets a knockdown and then finishes it with a submission. To be honest, if you look at Sumidershi's record, all of his losses have been by submission. So
Yeah,
that bit worries you. And we know how much power Sumidershi has as well. This one is going to be a power. Whoever lands, really, is whoever feels the power most. But I believe it's going to be Minnow Cap. I think Minnow Cap is going to be the one who's going to stand in the middle, landing his better shots. And I like Minnow Cap by submission. I think he's going to knock him down and submit him by rear naked choke. And I think that's
wow.
that's what I'm going with. But this is a fantastic fight, and I think this is a good matchup for both. In the flyweight division is crazy, man. This was going to get cut a few years ago. It was on the break of getting everyone getting released, and now look at it. It's probably one of the best divisions that we have inside the UFC. It's crazy.
I wouldn't go as far to say that, but it's super exciting to watch.
No, I think there is some killers in that division. I think it's a fantastic division. I think it's definitely one up there of the best. You got bantamweight, you got lightweight, and I feel like it's definitely up there with one of them. So it's a fantastic division. We got some killers coming through as well.
Yeah, really, really fun division to watch. All these guys have quick hands, and when you throw in knockout power into the mix like this one, you're going to get a fun fight. And if you want to talk about fun fights, this main card opener, get to your TV as early as possible, ladies and gentlemen, because these guys are coming in to put on a show. Both guys have been involved in fights where they've walked out with bonuses because they're the most exciting fighters out there in this featherweight division. They always come looking to finish, looking to entertain, and they've got basically no quit in them. Lando Venata, his UFC run has been fascinating. Straight up fascinating. He debuted against a prime Tony Ferguson as a huge underdog on short notice. He knocks him down and he beats the crap out of him in that first round. That was prime Tony Ferguson. And in the second round, he gets gassed and gets starstruck, but no shame in that. That was a short notice spot there. And after he gets that highlight reel wheel kick against John Makdessi, he did have a 3-fight run where it was a 4-fight run with no wins, but 2 of those were draws, and those draws were to Bobby Green and Matt Frivola. That Matt Frivola fight is one of the most underrated fights of all time. It's so fun. He's been in 2 draws. Want to know why? Because he beats the crap out of his opponents in that first round and gets 10-8s. But he just can't quite finish him. The guy is such a lethal striker, so much power, so much heart. And I was thinking he was not looking as good when he was losing to McKee, lost to Bobby Green. Just didn't look good in those fights. It felt like something was off. He makes the switch. He goes down to featherweight, which he was never big lightweight, but he was very effective. And he looked like he was in the Matrix against Mike Grundy. When he fought Mike Grundy, I picked Mike Grundy with high confidence. Mike Grundy, a very good wrestler, but I slept on Lando Venetta's takedown defense. His takedown defense looked unbelievable. His get game too. Whenever he was on my feet, he was piecing up Mike Grundy. Lando Venetta could not have pressed me more that night. I don't think I'll bet against him again for a while. And against Charles Jourdain, tricky fight to pick because Jourdain is a guy that is familiar with draws himself too because he's historically actually a slow starter. He's gotten dropped in several fights in the first round, and he's come back to win them. Against Andre Ewell, that was a performance where he did dominate, but if you look back at the Josh Kolaba fight, he's a huge favorite. He gets dropped in that first round, and after that, my goodness, the guy was so aggressive, and he banked the rounds 2 and 3 decisively. Jourdain is a really good prospect out of Canada, but he has looked he hasn't looked great in some fights, like in the Rojo fight, big favorite again. He gets dropped, and eventually gets a finish. So he's got really good cardio. The Julian Rosa fight was where he got submitted late. I think this fight has high potential for a finish, but both guys have shown they're being so durable. So I think this goes to decision, and I think the guy winning the fight is Lando Veneta because Lando Veneta looks so good in his last fight. I think he knocks down Jourdain, might get a 10-8 in the first round, but I think the second round decides it. Third round, Jourdain will get it. He might get a finish too. Jourdain's got some really good submission skills. He is a black belt. He's got really mean ground pound. There's so many ways this fight will go, but I think a draw is truly on the table.
Yeah, there's so many different possibilities in this fight. Lando Venata and Charles Jourdain, but been one of the most unpredictable fighters inside the UFC, both inside the UFC. Lando Venata had them 2 draws, and as you talked about that UFC debut against Tony Ferguson, knocking him down, hurting him really bad, beating him up, and eventually getting finished. But there's no shame in that. And then he came back, spinning wheel kick KO. This guy's exciting in every fight he's in. And I think this is going to be a good one. And I think they've matched him up perfectly against Charles Jourdain off the back of his last performance against Andre Ewell. Possibly one of his best performances as of date. Striking-wise, I think he looked brilliant. I think this is a fantastic match that is going to be contested on the feet. And I think Lando Venata is going to get the better of him. I think his style and his stance, the way he picks his shots, is just going to be able to pick Charles Jourdain apart. But I like this one. This is a fantastic fight. And this is my pick for fight of the night. I think this is the only one that you got Manel Cap versus Sumidashi, but this one, I believe, is where I pick for my fight of the night.
Yeah, I really love this fight. I think there will be a situation in this fight, I guarantee it, where both fighters are in big trouble. But both guys have such good hearts. I think we'll see a decision, but I say the bet on the draw is not a bad one. It's 50-1 odds. We'll move on to the prelims. Louis Cosi versus Preston Parton was canceled. Cosi did test positive for COVID recently. We'll move on to Jordan Wright versus Marc-Andre Barrow. Marc-Andre is my boy. He follows me on Instagram. I always cheer him on. And he's fighting Jordan Wright, a guy we've roasted him on the show for the competition he's fought. He's historically a can crusher, but say what you want about him. He does well. He does well in some of these fights he loses. When he fought Bruno Silva, I thought Bruno was going to knock out early, and he did. But before that, he was beating up Bruno in the clinch. When he fought Jamie Pickett, he knocked him out with the elbows, and then he followed up with really vicious kicks and knees. Even though I roast the guy, I think he's super dangerous early. There's no doubt about it. When he fought Ike Villanueva, he did get that cut stoppage early in the fight. I like his offense, but his defense is awful. His defense is straight up awful. Chin high up in the air. Marc Andre hits really hard, and he's got really good durability historically. When he fought Chidi and Njokuani, did I expect them to get put away in 17 seconds like that with a 1-2? No, I just feel like he might have gotten caught off guard there. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, but I'll assume he's not, his chin isn't a liability in this fight. I think Jordan Wright will have early success here by trying to landing some big shots, but it won't matter because Marc Andre, he against guys that are not durable like Oscar Pihota and Jordan Wright, I think he can sit those guys down inside of 3 minutes. I think Marc Andre Barrel gets himself a first round knockout here, but Jordan Wright will come out very aggressive.
Yeah, this is a good fight.
I really see a stoppage in this fight. I think either guy gets the knockout here.
Yeah, I've got to agree. This is a good fight, and if you look at their record, both of them, if you look at Wright's losses, lost to in his last fight, lost against Bruno Silva, and then before that, he lost Joaquin Buckley. Yeah, he's been knocked out both of the in their fights. And the Marc Andre Barrett in his last fight getting starched by Chuchi in Njokuani. So it was if you look at this one, it definitely. On paper, definitely a finish that possesses itself, and I think whoever lands cleanly first is definitely going to get the job done. But as you talked about, Jordan Wright, we've roasted him in the past, but to be honest, he's not as bad as we've made him out to be. He's a good fighter, but it's just his way to the octagon might have convinced us that he wasn't as good as we thought. But yeah, I like Jordan Wright in this fight. I think he can land early, but eventually. I think he's not going to. I don't think he's going to put Marc Andre Barrett out though. I think Marc Andre Barrett is going to be in round 2, round 3. He's going to bank himself some rounds, and I think Jordan Wright is going to. I'd like to see Jordan Wright go to the later stages of the fight. I don't think we've seen that yet, so I want to see how he holds up.
Here's one thing with Jordan. Jordan's never won a fight that lasted longer than 6 minutes. Marc Andre Barrett has fought a competitive 15 many times. In fact, he went to a split with Kristaps.
Jordan Wright has only been into the second round once.
Yeah. Jordan Wright does not have good gas tank historically. I think Marc Andre Barrett does have a good gas tank. Fighting out of Stanford MMA, he took Delja Lungiabula's best shots. I just hope Marc Andre Barrett does not has recovered well from that Chidi knockout. I think he knocks out Wright here. It's going to look similar to the Pihota knockout here. I just really hope for his sake he gets this one because he might get cut if he loses that. Moving on to a welterweight fight between two strikers, Dwight Grant versus Sergey Kanzadoshko. I think this fight is pretty solid, but both guys, the optics of their fights is not great. Dwight Grant, he's got like the most awkward stance in the UFC ever. The guy looks so weird out there, but man, he's effective and he hits like a truck. In his fight with Francisco Trinaldo, he knocks him down with a head kick. Sure, he lost the rest of the fight convincingly, but besides that, he can be really dangerous in some spots. He fought Daniel Rodriguez, who was once ranked, and he knocks him down, almost finishes him. Daniel Rodriguez, who a lot of people think very highly of. He's now on a 7-fight win streak, I think. Dwight Grant almost knocked him out. And he also has a win over Alan Jouban, which I didn't think he won that fight, but he did hurt Alan in that fight. So say what you want about Dwight's technique. He's effective. And he's fighting Sergey Kandoshko, who has a really good record, but I wouldn't say he's exactly a high-level fighter either. He's fought a lot of low-level competition in his career. His UFC debut did not go really well. He fought, who was it? It was Rustam Khabilov. That was a grappling disadvantage for him in that fight. Clearly lost. He's got power in his hands. I would say he's got a higher output than Dwight Grant. I don't think we'll see any grappling in this fight. I just think it's going to come down to does Dwight Grant hurt Sergey in this fight or does he not? Because I think besides Dwight hurting him, I think Sergey outpoints him.
Yeah, I like the way Grant in this one. As you talk about, he's a weird, unorthodox stance. Throws his strikes at an awkward angle, but it's as you were talking about, it's effective and he lands hard. He's got some heavy hands, and I like him in this fight. If you look at Sergey's record, he's took a lot of losses in his career, mostly by submission. He's only been finished once, and that was back in 2013. So. It's by strikes. He's only been finished once by strikes, and that was in 2013. So it shows that he's definitely got a chin on him. Definitely probably took some punches along the way. But I'm not too sure. I think the White Grant is got it in the bag. I think he's going to hit him hard. Maybe not knock him out, but I believe a scorecard will definitely come his way. But as you talk about, Sergey is a fantastic striker, and if the fight does go to round 2, round 3. I probably would lean towards him, but I think there's a chance of Grant collecting early. I'm knocking him out. I think this could be a fantastic matchup, and I think it's a good fight on the prelims. I like it.
Yeah, move on to the next fight. It is the long-awaited return of
the Mac.
Tyson Pedro has been out for a long time. In his last fight, he got knocked out by Shogun Rua. That was way back in 2018. That was a while ago, man. Tyson Pedro, he's got quality wins. He really does. And those are wins that have aged really well. Wins over Khalil Rountree, wins over Paul Craig via finish. That was a crucifix. And who else am I thinking of? The Safra lost win, not exactly high level, but he's held his own against guys like Latifi. And the Shogun fight was not completely washed before that knockout. He's had a really long time to reflect on those losses. Hopefully do some training. The reason he's been out is there was a botched surgery that he thought he might have to retire from. So we don't know what he's going to look like here. But when you're fighting Ike Villanueva, it's hard for me not to pick against Ike. Because Ike, he's got a very ugly record. There's no hiding that. The gas tank is pretty awful. The ground game is far from this. There's a lot lacking on the Villanueva side, and on top of that, he's older. So I think this is a great fight for Pedro to come back in here and just steamroll Ike. I think he's a weight. If Pedro is like 80% of what he was, he should knock out Ike within the first 2 rounds. And I say he does it. I say we get a second round TKO for Pedro. I think it's going to be by ground and pound.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you on this one. I like Tyson Pedro. As you were talking about, had some fantastic wins in the past. Paul Craig, Khalil Rountree, and obviously his last fight against Mauricio Shogun in 2018. It's been a long time, 4 years roughly, or just under 3 years, just under 4 years. I mean, away from the octagon. It's been a while. So it's been a while, and he's probably learned, improved, reflected on the losses as you were talking about. And I feel like we're going to see a really good Tyson Pedro. I think it's a good matchup for him to look good against it. As you were talking about, Ike Villanueva is not the greatest fighter that we've seen. But I think Tyson Pedro is going to. I think he might even shoot. To be honest, I think he might even go for a takedown in this one. I think I like a takedown in this one for Tyson Pedro, and I like them elbows in the side control and just ground and pounded him. But yeah, this is a good matchup for Tyson Pedro to get back into the win column, and I think he will. And I think he's gonna. I think this is the one that they, just to get him back in there, see how he feels, and then definitely we'll move on from there. I think this is a good matchup, a good showcase matchup for Tyson Pedro, and it's just good to see him fighting again.
Yeah, it's been a way too long. Honestly, he was the bright prospect. He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. I think he can get a submission or a TKO here because Villanueva on the ground just has nothing to offer, quite honestly. So we'll move on to the next fight. The return of Richie Lane versus the return of Cameron Else. Cameron Else has been out a long time, man. I remember he was part of one of the early Fight Island events, and he fought Kyler Phillips in that fight. Kyle Phelps definitely the much better grappler. Got a second round TKO. Richie Lang will not give Else that luck. In fact, Else has the better grappling. He submitted Paddy Pimblett back in the day. Else has only gotten wins in the first round, basically his whole career. And I think he's most dangerous when grappling. And Richie Lang, I think, is the better striker here. His takedown defense did not look good against Cody Durden in his last fight, but he did bank that third round because Durden was tired. So I think we're gonna see Else come out like a bat out of hell. I think he's gonna be super aggressive, take Richie Lang's back, and I think Richie Lang will be able to stick in there, and I think Else will be a bit slower in the second round. Else did fight like a different style against Kyler. He was not aggressive as he once was. So maybe he's just trying to pace himself better. So I think Else might pace himself better, but in the end, I think Richie Lang finds himself getting a third round knockout. Richie Lang's UFC debut was against Jeff Molina, really good prospect, and he banked the first round, but the last two rounds did not go well for him, and he almost knocked out Jeff Molina at the very end of that fight. I don't know if you remember that. Molina broke the striking record at flyweight in that fight, but Richie Lang still had it in him to land that final bomb. So I think he can knock out Cameron Else here when Else is a little tired.
Yeah, as you were talking about Cameron Else's record, most of his fights have ended in the first round. A few have gone to the second round, in which I believe, if I'm correct, both of them he's lost. So
yeah,
I'm not too sure on Cameron Else. I do like him. He's been on the show. We've had a fantastic talk. We talked about how when he was in the Paratroopers, his experience, his road to the UFC, and it was interesting to talk about. And he's beat Paddy Pimblett. He's beat Dylan Tuck. He's beat some fantastic prospects that have came out of England and Ireland, and his time has definitely came to be inside the UFC. But I'm not too sure on him. I haven't seen enough of him for me to be confident to pick him. But against Kyler Phillips, they handed him, one of the worst matchups that you could have in your debut, in the bantamweight debut, against a fantastic prospect in Kyler Phillips. Top 15, top 10 material, definitely. And then Cameron Else is now fighting. I'm not too sure how to say his name, to be honest.
Richie Lang.
Arichi Lang. There you go. That would do. Arichi. I'll just call him Arichi. Against Arichi. As you were talking about, definitely a good grappler, and no, definitely a good striker, but definitely the striking, the grappling wise, Cameron Else. But if you look on his record, he submitted, as you talked about, Paddy Pimblett, but not most of them haven't really been submission. It's all been TKOs, KOs. He possesses heavy hands. Cameron Else, he can knock you out at any given chance, and he's wild. He's wild with it, and that's what worries me, because he might get wild, throw his strikes, and eventually he will get tired. And we saw that in the Kyler Phillips fight. I'm just not sure on him. I think the smart choice is Arichi. I think that's the wise decision. But don't get me wrong, I would love to see Cameron Else get it done.
Yeah, me as well. He's got one of the most successful episodes of this podcast, interview episode with him, call out Thomas Almeida way back in the day. But yeah, Arichi Lang I think he has to win this one, because he's on a 2-fight skin in the UFC. If he loses this one, he will get cut. So they give him a guy like Else, hoping he gets the win here. He's now up at bantamweight, so I think his cardio will be even better, honestly. So I think he takes advantage of Else, gets a third round TKO. We'll move on to Marcin Prachnio versus Philippe Lins. This is Lins's return to light heavyweight. He won the PFL tournament at heavyweight. He looked really good in that tournament. But once he made his way to the UFC, the guy did not look good at all. He fought Andrei Arlovsky, and he was unable, Andrei Arlovsky, one thing the UFC's done a good job of recently is making him avoid guys with heavy hands, because Arlovsky's a really good point fighter, and the same thing for Lins. Lins does not have heavy hands, but he's got speed. And now he's not having that speed advantage now that he's going down to light heavyweight. So I think he's finding a guy in Prachnio who is of a similar size, but I think Lins might have a bit of a size advantage. But when it comes to speed, Prachnio now has the speed advantage here. And Prachnio was not terrible at all in his UFC run early, but when he fought Khalil Roundtree, the guy showed up with a chin that day. I'll just say that. He got rocked early. After that, he was able to rock Khalil. Now that Khalil was super tired, both guys don't have the best gas tanks, especially Lynn's cutting weight now. So I think this is a very close fight. I think both guys will look to point fight. And I'll side with Prachnio because he's got a way higher output, really good leg kicks, really good body kicks as he showed against Ike Villanueva. I like Prachnio's game here. I really like his kicking game. Lins is more of a boxer. I don't think we see any grappling here. I think Prachnio wins a very close decision.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. If you look at Marcin Prachnio, when he made his UFC debut, he got knocked out by Sam Alvey.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure what's changed since then to now. Is a massive difference. Getting a win over Khalil Roundtree, and then obviously in his last fight against Ike Villanueva. And as you were talking about, I like Marcin Prachnio in this fight too. I think his boxing's good. His boxing's slick. He's very accurate with his punches. And Felipe Lins, I don't think he's gonna. I think obviously Marcin Prachnio's got a better volume in this one. I think that's what's going to win him is the volume. If you look at that, the landed strikes per minute, it's almost 4 more than Felipe Lins, and I think that's just going to be the story of the fight. I think Marcin Prachnio is just going to land at will and just be the more active fighter, and I think that's what is going to win him the fight is the activeness and the volume of his punches, and I think the accuracy as well is it's going to show at the end of the fight when Felipe Lins his nose is busted up and a few cuts on his face. I feel like Marcin Prachnio, this is a good fight for him, and I feel like he's going to get another win, and that's going to be 3 back-to-back now.
Yeah, which is wild because I thought that guy was on his way out heading into the Khalil Roundtree fight, but he's shown some kind of durability, and Lance did not have the heavy sand, so I think he gets the win there. Let's move to the opener. This is a fascinating fight in several ways. We have Dean Barry coming out of Ireland versus Mike Jackson. This is a crazy fight, man. This is a crazy fight. Dean Barry is a really good prospect with insane power. He's got a lot of knockouts inside of 30 seconds. He's got a kickboxing background. The striking on Dean Barry is pretty darn solid. But I wouldn't say he's proven. Hasn't fought super challenging competition. In fact, his one loss is a loss that looks really awful on paper. I'll just say that. The loss is to, who was it?
Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor.
Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor, who trains with Jake Paul and AJ McKee. He's got really short arms. The fact that he moved over to boxing lets you know how limited his ground game is. And he submitted Dean Barry. Dean Barry, I don't know if he's UFC ready yet. He's got a 4-run record, and his only loss is to Anthony Taylor, who was 2-5. That was in 2018. There's been you know what's weird with this fight? This fight was actually rebooked twice now. It was booked in like late 2020. And after I forgot who pulled out in that fight. Who was it that pulled out?
I think it was Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson pulled out of the fight, and they just took away his contract, and then he had to fight in Titan FC. So I don't know what's going on there, but nonetheless, Mike Jackson on the other end, he was the guy they brought in to fight CM Punk. That shows you the level of fighter this guy is. The guy's a photographer. The guy he's got no real background in anything. He just trained MMA, and I guess he was in good graces with the UFC. He had good management. Found himself in a fight with Mickey Gall, which he got steamrolled in that fight, obviously, because Mickey Gall's a real fighter. I don't think this guy's a real fighter, honestly. And then he fought CM Punk, and you see the guy's record. He's 0-1, but he's actually 1-1. That CM Punk the win was overturned because of marijuana, which is ridiculous. He obviously won that fight, and that did not enhance his performance. And in that fight, it was all about the wrestling for Mike Jackson. Mike Jackson got on top of CM Punk, landed a lot of ground and pound. CM Punk had no get-up game. One CM Punk, maybe the worst UFC fighter of all time, obviously was really, just old, had really nothing going for him in terms of offensive skill set. And Mike Jackson was unable to finish him. So there's no reason anybody should be picking Mike Jackson. I think we went way too long with this preview. Dean Barry should steamroll this guy. Dean Barry, way better striker. I think he knocks out Mike Jackson here. I'll say first round. Dean Barry has that karate stance, really good counter puncher. He's gonna knock out Mike Jackson. Mike Jackson's gonna throw something silly. Let's not forget Mike Jackson's also really long layoff, so he's not gonna look good early. I think Barry knocks him out. It's that simple, really.
Yeah, I don't even know what to expect from Mike Jackson, if I'm honest. I don't know what I'm going to see. I don't know how good he is, because we saw him get something against Mickey Gall, and obviously Mickey Gall is he's a good grappler. But then we saw him against CM Punk, but we can't really evaluate him because CM Punk is just, as we talked about, probably one of the worst UFC fighters that we've had. And then obviously it made Mike Jackson look sort of good-ish, but it was against CM Punk, so we can't really, credit that win, and we can't really evaluate his skills. And as you talked about, he didn't finish CM Punk when the finish was there, open, time and time again. And CM Punk, if I believe, actually got a takedown against Mike Jackson. So it just shows, the level that we're at with Mike Jackson. And as you've talked about, this guy's a photographer. He goes around regional MMA events and gets photos. So I'm not too sure what his website is. Go check it out. He takes some good photos, but unfortunately, he's not going to be able to take some good photos of him losing to Dean Barry. Yeah,
and I think a good connection to that. I think he'll be caught taking photos in this fight. I think he'll be staring at Dean Barry, hoping for Dean Barry to throw something, and I think he'll be the one throwing, get countered. And Barry has vicious KO power. I think,
this guy can strike. This guy can kick, man. This guy is lethal. This guy is unbelievable. His counters, his kicks, his stance is incredible. The karate stance, and I always like the karate stance. I don't know why. I think it's good for takedown defense. Because the second leg is always so far back between they're bouncing. It just seems like they're ready for anything. It worked with Wonderboy in the past anyway, when it was he was really good takedown defensive wise. I'm not sure what happened late with Wonderboy, but the only problem here with the karate stance, if you get caught against the cage, that's when it becomes a problem of getting taken down. And that's what Dean Barry's got to avoid. If getting his back behind the cage, staying in the middle, control that center against a 6'2" frame of Mike Jackson. It might be hard, but I believe he's got the skills to do so, and I think he's going to make it look fairly easy. And I think he's going to get a stoppage win inside the first round. So I'm excited to see how this fight goes. I think this is the most intriguing fight, one of the most intriguing fights that we have on the card, and it's the first fight of the evening. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a good card all around. I see some people criticizing the card as a whole. I don't agree with it. I think we're going to have a lot of memorable moments, a lot of memorable finishes in fights. Yeah, I say this fight is definitely worth your time. And that about wraps it up for this episode. Longer episode, but there's just so much going on. But I do want to quickly get your quick pick on the fight that's in the works, apparently. Stipe Miocic, the former heavyweight champion, taking on John Jones, probably the greatest fighter of all time, former light heavyweight champion. What's your pick for that fight? Because Stipe Miocic is a 2-1 underdog.
I think this is a close matchup. I really like this matchup, and if it actually happens, it actually goes down. When I see it announced by the UFC, is a day I'll most likely cry, because John Jones coming back is it's a big deal. It's a big statement, and against Stipe Miocic, one of the greatest heavyweights, if not the greatest heavyweight that we've seen inside the octagon. And this is a fantastic fight. John Jones can box. Stipe Miocic can box. John Jones can grapple. His grappling is so good. And I think that's where he's going to really test Miocic, is the grappling. I think it's going to be quite similar to Alexander Gustafsson fight, where he's going to take him down, and we're going to see a little bit of a ground and pound finish. But yeah, I'm not sure. I like John Jones in this fight, but I think I think it might be. I'm not sure. This could go so many ways. Stipe Miocic could knock him out, but I mean, if you look at John Jones as of late in the striking, it's not been looking good for him, to be honest.
It's my most anticipated fight in UFC history. Never have I ever wanted to see two guys fight each other more. They're probably the two best ever in their respective divisions, and John is finally moving up. I think John will walk out with the heavyweight championship, and I think he will not do it by kickboxing like he's done his last couple of fights, which those fights are super close, and he's getting tagged. I think John will listen to the advice of the great Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo, every guy the guy has coached, Davison Figueiredo, Sean Willie, what do? They get takedowns. They get top control. John Jones is an elite grappler, taking down DC, submitted Vitor Belfort, submitted Lyoto Machida, one of the best grapplers ever. Has he been using it a lot in his last couple of fights? No. That's why I think he's been getting in trouble. So if he offensively grapples, I think he can get a submission on Stipe. I'll say 4th round. That's my pick for now. But that wraps it up for this episode. I needed to get talking about that fight because I cannot wait for it.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on as well with obviously we've got Fury versus White, but we'll be here all day. So yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that next week, the recap and everything like that. We've got such a fantastic episode next week as well. We get to talk about everything that happened, and then also, that's such a fantastic fight. Wow. It's incredible. But yeah, we get to talk about that all next week. We've been here for far too long, Oscar. 2 hours. It just clocked over. So yeah, we'll let you all go. It's been a fantastic episode. Make sure you tune in next week, same time, Tuesday, 6 p.m. British summertime, and I'm not too sure what that is in Central Time. So I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, it's noon Central Time.
There we go.
It's going to be a fun episode this week. This episode was really long, but there was a lot of intriguing fights to get to. So that about wraps it up for the episode. Make sure to enjoy the fights this weekend.
100%. Have a good weekend. Everyone enjoy the fights, and we'll talk to you next week on Tuesday.